So I'm talking with Timothy Michael Wynn here about his new score for The Darkness 2, sequel to the hit game. And thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you.
So to start off, how'd you get into music, and what led you to composing for film and other visual medias?
I started off, much like, the teenagers where you're in a rock band, just wanting to write music, wanting to, perform for people, and, that went well, and during high school, and, I wrote a lot of music that way. And then, you turn 18 years old and you're looking for an outlet to where your music can go. And what you can do with musical talents, and it just came to pass that I really liked the idea of music going with visuals in the classical field. Debussy with his 20th century tone poems and things like that. That was sort of the genesis with it. Music that had a visual sort of connotation. Another piece like Gustav Holst and the Planets was something that was very influential to me, and so I loved how you could when Mercury comes on, you could imagine it's really fast piece that goes and it's like wow, it's just like how Mercury would sound to me, and I always liked that. I liked how music went with a description or a visual or some sort of backstory, and so that's what kind of got me going. And one of the teachers, commented about going to the USC school for film and music and that sort of stuff. So that's where I ended up going and went and got my degree in music for film scoring, and haven't looked back since.
And are you from LA, or did you move out here?
No, I am. I kind of grew up in a city near Long Beach called Seal Beach.
Okay, so you're close by then, but
yeah, and I grew up disliking USC intensely. My dad went to UCLA, and I did look in to go to UCLA, but they didn't really. They were very just into classical sort of stuff, and they didn't really have now you have a little bit more of a selection there. They have a UCLA extension, that's okay, but I really wanted to go to the top school for the field, and so that's where I met with Buddy Baker, the director at the time, and I just he really made me feel at home, and after meeting with him, there was no doubt where I wanted to go to school.
Right. So with video games have been growing with technology over the past few years, and they've been continually being pushed music-wise, and music has been such a huge substantial role in them. For you, what does video game composing offer a composer that film or TV can't do?
Well, I think video games they like to be more, say, horizontal with the music rather than vertical, and what that means is they have to be much more flexible with the tracks, because they have to be able to go from one place to another place to change pretty much instantaneously. So you need to write in a very wide range where you don't just give them a stereo track anymore, or for the most part, some games you do, but giving them flexibility, giving the audio director flexibility. So if you had, say, 10 stems, that if the track would still sound really good if you just had stems 1, which may be the percussion, and stems 3, which is the orchestra going, and then another stem of guitar, or another different just different variations of how the track works out. So it really adds, it allows you to really edit the music well, and really tailor it for the game player.
And do you find that your writing is, I guess, since you have all this you have to do these separate, very little things, do you find your writing is less constricted since you're not really confined to a locked picture other than cutscenes?
Yeah, I in some ways yes, in some ways no. The thing about writing to the cutscenes or or when you're doing it to movies or TV, you have you have an impetus to write to. You have here's the problem, be it a scene. All right, how do you write a piece of music to solve the problem, to give you all the nuances and things like that?
Right.
So in some ways it can be a little bit more challenging because you're writing not, you have to just write in a more broad sense rather than a real specific sense. And when you're writing in a more broad sense, it can be, you can second guess yourself because there isn't as many sort of rules other than your imagination. But when the cutscenes are, there's a pretty obvious, at least to me anyway, there's an obvious way to score it and to heighten the the emotional content. And when you're doing gameplay stuff, it's not the same thing.
So for The Darkness 2, you came in. This is the second game in the franchise, and so did you look at what Gustav Grefberg did for the first score at all, or did you try to stay in the same universe, or did you go from a blank slate?
I looked at it a little bit. The score was good for The Darkness 1. I didn't really. I listened to it for reference, but just a very tertiary sort of listen, and they didn't really. We didn't want the same approach as that score, so it was like, listen to this. We liked it, but don't do anything like it.
Right.
Sort of thing like that. So.
And it's, when you're dealing with such an over-the-top concept as the game, and many video games kind of have that, and you hear composers go overboard, and I love how you didn't, and you played with subtleties, and portions of the score had a kind of a mysterious fantasy quality to it, and it wasn't hardcore rock, which is, the trailer had Nine Inch Nails, and it definitely looked like they were trying to tailor it to that audience. Would that hard style, would that have worked in The Darkness too?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that, yes, it would work. We made a conscious decision not to do it that way from the very beginning. I did a score back, I think, in 2005 or 2006 for The Punisher, where we did do a pretty hardcore rock score in parts of it, and it worked really well. And it just kind of depends on what the game player is looking for. Some people, really like, how it turned out. Really like the sort of the way I kind of termed it was I was going for an old school approach, but with like kind of modern, flashes. So trying, and the reason why I did that was I thought that we would try to be a timeless score, and it would it would appeal. It would kind of enhance the story between Jackie and Jenny, and it wouldn't, you would listen back to the score in 15 years from now, and you wouldn't think, oh, that was written in blah blah blah, and whatever year that would be. And so it's easy to date yourself if you're going for that rock stuff, and it's been done so often that I think that's why we really just tried a new, fresh approach.
So if you're just looking at The Darkness 2 specifically, what did you want the music's function to be?
Well, of course, there's a lot of, as in most video games, there's a lot of action. So that was, a very strong component was, how to drive the action and drive you from, one quest to another storyline. And, for me, the most important part was to try to wring as much emotional quality out of the gameplay as possible. The story is very strong, very very horror based, sort of love lost, and trying to save your girlfriend or save her from hell, that sort of stuff. And I really tried to heighten the dramatic part of that, rather than just roll over it with a bunch of big beats and orchestra stuff. Where I really wanted to try to, in the moments where the music could play up the story, that was my main goal.
And it worked. It's fantastic. I was listening through the score, and it's I really love it. It's really great.
Right. And, well, thank you for that. I do appreciate the compliment. It's very it's very kind.
And So overall, not just with Darkness, but other stuff. When you're writing, what stimulates you? What stimulates your writing more? Is it plot, character, or setting? And what speaks to you the most? And then how do you incorporate kind of the rest of the aspects into it?
Well, I think, I mean, the plot definitely, I mean, the setting does too, of course, but I think the plot is probably the number one factor in how I would write. And for this game, I wrote the theme first, and pretty standard practice there, and
right.
I really wanted to develop that theme over the whole score, and bring it back in lots of different places, and just it was a very simple theme, but I think it was powerful in its use, and I tried to incorporate that as much music from action music to the dramatic points to the cut scenes, and there was two main themes. The Darkness theme and then Jenny's theme, and we didn't try to go. There was other minor characters, but it didn't feel like it wanted to be, say, like Star Wars, where there's a Imperial theme and this theme and that theme. So we just stuck to the two main themes, and we even made the themes they related to themselves in a way, so they were sort of intertwined, and they would be able to be used in the same space, and because much like the story, the Darkness and Jenny are all kind of wrapped up in themselves. They're so related to each other, so it felt just right to have it work that way.
And yeah, definitely. And you're so not just the Darkness, but you're doing a film called the Liberator with Lou Ferrigno, right? That's coming up.
Yeah.
And I watched the trailer, and I mean, it looks like a hilarious kind of action. I mean, I don't know, when there's a scene where he cracks a guy's back, and I just started laughing because it was just Lou Ferrigno like picking up a guy and snapping him in half. But so it's a low budget action film, and there's a lot of composers getting started who are having to deal with low budgets and budget constraints. Right. Do you have any tricks or tips for working around something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think for me, when they approached me, actually, because they had heard my score for Red Faction Guerrilla, and they really liked it, and that was sort of the template for the music that they wanted, and they approached me, and they were very complimentary towards me, and it makes it easy to say yes when they're like, wow, we just we love your music, and we think you're a perfect fit for it, and we don't have a lot of money, but is there something that we can do here? And I found it to be a very interesting project, so it became more of a labor of love rather than, well, let's let's try to make as much money you can off this or whatever like that. So right. I think I think for your early projects, you have to look at it as every opportunity for these young composers is a good opportunity, because every film or game or any sort of project has its own unique set of challenges, and the only way you can overcome them is to go through it. And regardless if you're getting paid or not getting paid, every composer I know still at every different level still does work for free or something like that as you can. And if you believe in the project and you go in with a good attitude, it will come out okay. But if you're grumbling going in, you're gonna have a hard time, and you're gonna grumble the whole time, and you're not gonna write good music, and no one's gonna appreciate you, and it's just gonna be a lot of pain and suffering for nothing. But if you go in there with a good attitude and whatever, I think you'll succeed. I mean, most of the composers I know that that are my friends or coworkers or whatever is, they just the number one component is they have got a great attitude, and they're it's a labor of love, and we're so blessed that we can make a living and write music at the same time.
And yeah, nobody wants to work with an unpleasant person.
No, and I know guys that are out there that are, have a hard time, and they're not pleasant to work with, and generally I find that they don't get, calls back, and having a good attitude and being a good, there's a lot of talented writers. There's a lot of games out there, a lot of movies, a lot of TV, and I feel like I'm a really good writer, but I know, 20, hundreds of writers that are equally good or better or whatever, and just going in and realizing, you're not. I mean, you could be a great writer, but if you're not also someone good to work with, then they'll just call somebody else.
Right. Well, to wrap up, I always like to ask composers this question: if you had the opportunity to score any movie ever made, with no disrespect to the original composer, what film would you choose?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, one of my favorite scores was Planet of the Apes. Jerry Goldsmith. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I would love to rescore that. That was, although it's such a perfect piece of music that it's hard to say. I guess if I was looking at it from the other way, I guess I'd be trying to find a movie that the score didn't work well, and then doing something better, I guess. But the Jerry Goldsmith score for that was, I mean, I think one of the top, top scores of all time.
Oh, yeah,
and
classic, yeah.
Yeah, it's classic, and for that time period. But I guess I'd like to do something like I guess I would like to do like that, but maybe modern it up and do something like that. I mean, I like what Danny Elfman did for the new uptake of it, but I mean, let's face it, nobody can touch Goldsmith.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that would be one. Another score probably would be something epic and thematic, much like maybe something from the Star Trek series would be great to try to tackle, or even something intimate, like I don't even know who did the score for The Remains of the Day, but something that was a very because for video games you're always writing, and then in some of the movies I've done too, you're writing really to be as big as possible,
right.
and sometimes it would be great. It's great when you can write to a comedy or something like that. So or a sort of just an emotional drama stuff. It takes on a whole life of its own. So. I kind of got off on a tangent there, but yeah, I think those would be the two that if I could redo it, or even maybe even Indiana Jones. Oh, that would be fun to do too. Something like that would be too much fun. But so those would be my three.
all great answers. But I'm out of questions for you, Tim. But thank you so much for taking the time, and you did a really great job with Darkness 2. I really enjoyed it, and
thank you.
And hope players enjoy playing the game and everything. It's out now, and hopefully we get to do this again sometime in the future. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, all your comments and your good questions. And if you're up at GDC, you send me a line, and I can meet you. And if not, I'm sure we'll run into each other sometime.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye.